Lionel de Lange is one of those rare individuals willing to risk everything for love. After finding a match on an online dating site, he packed up his life in South Africa and moved to Ukraine more than a decade ago. But while he loved the country and decided to stay, the relationship fizzled.
It didn't work out with the two of us, we were just too different.
But the stars aligned 3 years later when he met Anya Masiak, who would later become his wife.
Anya and I opened up a couple of little seasonal coffee shops, and in fact that's where we ended up with our 4 homeless dogs and cats.
Lionel and Anya shared a simple, happy life with their beloved pets in the southern town of Kherson, little knowing it would one day be thrown into turmoil.
And tonight, new revelations about Russia's potential new war plan.
Ukraine says elite Russian units are now moving in.
After years of simmering tensions, Russian forces invaded Ukraine in late February this year.
Russian troops are attacking from the north, south, and east.
Military bases, airports, and aircraft have been targeted and bombed.
Local forces fought back, and the conflict spread along multiple fronts across the country.
It must have been so surreal then for you to be at the time of war breaking out.
I thought, well, I better get to the shop quickly and buy some extra milk and maybe 2 loaves of bread. It didn't really sink in. The banks restricted how much money you could withdraw each day. We were only allowed to put 20 litres of fuel in the car at a time. And the supermarkets were just completely overrun.
Lionel made it out of Ukraine. He returned to South Africa where his wife had been waiting, leaving behind friends and family.
I made sure that Anya's grandparents were okay, and they would never leave. I mean, they're too old, And I had to leave then.
I mean, you've got people there, you've got friends. I mean, family. Have they decided to stay like Anya's grandparents?
No, I think it's 50-50. A lot of friends have stayed, and many of them have run as well. But some of them have just stayed in place because they've got nowhere to go.
Many refugees fled with their pets, but Ukrainians are also fascinated by exotic animals. What of them?
There's a big problem with private ownership of lions in Ukraine. The guy will have a restaurant and he will have a lion or a bear in a cage outside to attract people.
Ukrainians can buy a range of wildlife online, including big cat cubs.
And then the cat gets too big, and that's where the problem comes in. They'll just dump them anywhere or shoot them or sell them to someone else, give them as a gift. There are tigers and lions and bears living in people's houses in Ukraine.
From the Warriors of Wildlife team in Ukraine and in South Africa.
Back in 2014, he and Anya founded the Warriors of Wildlife with a mission to rehome unwanted exotics. But they inevitably battled to find new homes for the animals in Ukraine and eventually established the 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀 Game Reserve and Sanctuary here in the Eastern Cape. It became a home in the sun for some of Ukraine's big cats. So, when war descended on his adoptive country, Lionel sprung into action.
I feel for the animals. I don't want to say I don't feel for people, but there's so many organizations helping people and so few helping animals.
There are many, many repercussions to a conflict. If people are leaving and if food is scarce and if we are all thinking about survival, the animals suffer. I don't think that even crossed my mind before coming here and speaking to Lionel.
Among the animals suffering as a result of the conflict was a very special bear. One Lionel had already rescued once and was determined to do so again.
We're on the road from Bucharest to 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀 border post. We're on our way to get Masha. This mission's on.
And a daring mission it was. Lionel and his team snuck back into Ukraine via Romania to smuggle Masha the bear out of the war zone and into safety. In 2018, after 19 years of intolerable abuse at a circus, Lionel had taken Masha to a town called 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀 in the west of the country. He could not have known that he would risk his life just 4 years later to ensure her safety.
It's just not 100% safe and nobody really knows what's going on.
The threat of Russian firepower is real. As of the 26th of April, close to 3,000 civilian deaths were reported and over 3,000 people have been injured. Once in Ukraine, they maneuvered around possible military targets to get to Masha. Thankfully, they reached Masha safely, relieved to find her unharmed.
Mosh, say hello to everyone. Are you okay, girl?
After preparing Masha for the risky trip ahead, they drove through the night, stopping only occasionally to allow her some fresh air.
So we're in 𝗀𝗶𝗶𝗶𝘶, about an hour and 20 minutes from the Romanian border. This is Masha's last morning in Ukraine.
Miraculously, they made it to the border and out of Ukraine without incident.
We were there for a couple of hours and the doors of the van were open and it brought smiles to their faces, crying children and unhappy people. And then they saw Masha and they sort of understood, wow, she's also a refugee just like they are.
After another grueling trip from the border to the town of 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀 in Romania, Masha finally arrived at her forever home, the Liberty Bear Sanctuary.
At least I can go home back to South Africa and know that she's safe.
While in South Africa, Lionel spends his days at 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀, caring for the big cats with another husband and wife team, Keegan and Lauren Smith.
All of the enclosures you guys are seeing, that was us on the ground while he was busy with the rescues in Ukraine. We have a lot of friends and family that come out. They help us do everything from digging holes in the ground, putting these fences up, putting up their night shelters, the gates.
The hard labor aside, getting the lions from Ukraine is pricey.
The last 5 lions that we brought out now was $38,000 just for the flight. But then it's the feeding. Prior to that, a cat will eat between 5 and 7 kilos of meat a day. You're around $1,000 a month.
The sanctuary receives donations of meat from farmers in the area. Keegan oversees mealtime.
So we've got 𝗵𝗶𝘀 supplement, which is just an all-round multivitamin basically, and then we've got some calcium. You just have to make a couple deep slits so that the powder can be in the meat to absorb properly.
What are some of the dietary issues that some of these big cats have come in with?
Some of the cats were fed predominantly turkey diet, and that's not normal for big cats. Typically, they need that red meat.
Okay.
So.
The sound of the van is a mealtime siren for the newcomers.
Lunch is served. Sometimes, even after all the effort and care that's put into rescuing these animals, unfortunately, survival is not always guaranteed.
That's true of the cats, and, tragically, it was true of Masha the bear. Just 3 weeks after moving into her new home, Lionel got the bad news.
She had a stroke and she passed away. We can only assume that it was stress because she was healthy, she was fed well.
While heartbroken, Lionel is already preparing to head back to Ukraine to rescue 2 more big cats.
Describe the feeling of seeing the cats arrive from Ukraine after months of work, forms, stress, phone calls, emails.
That makes all the stress, all the issues, all the hate, all the fighting, makes everything just disappear when they step out for the first time. The feeling is indescribable. Those experiences make everything worthwhile.